Hi guys, I wanted to do a quick video to go over week 4 and exactly what is due on this week. So if we look at the discussion for this week, it's our review of the literature, methods, and selection of articles. You're to share the components of your methods section for your review of the literature, describe in narrative form your search process, develop a Prisma diagram, and then provide feedback on 2 of your classmates' postings. So let's unpack that a little bit and go through what exactly the steps are for this week. So this week is really just to find your articles for the review of the literature and tell me how you did that. So it's not a complete review of the literature, just finding what articles you're going to include. So really the steps are to define the purpose of your review of the literature, identify your keywords, then you search those keywords in a database, apply any filters, which is also AKA, let me put this in here, AKA exclusion criteria, eliminate. So you apply your filters, you got some articles there. Then you're going to look at the abstract and title of the articles that come up, eliminate ones that you just can tell right away from just a precursory glance that those aren't going to meet your needs. Then you'll obtain the full text of articles that you think will be good and fit the purpose of your review. You read those full texts, you eliminate some of them because they don't meet your purpose, and then you let me know how many final articles you are going to review for this section. So notice here we have exclusion criteria, and here the word eliminate. So I'll go over that a little bit more, the difference between them. So in order to find your keywords, you want to write out your purpose of the review of the literature. And this can be helpful to write it out as a PICO question. So PICO stands for Population Intervention Comparison Outcomes. And if you go into this week's resource, some of the readings for this week, asking the clinical question, key step in evidence-based practice, this is a really helpful article for you to formulate your PICO. So your review of the literature is really a standalone section of your paper. So your background and significance, you're presenting the epidemiology and the context for this issue that you're bringing forth here. So what is the prevalence? What is the burden of this problem on the healthcare system? What is the burden of this problem on caregivers? What's the burden on the person with the condition or illness themselves? What kind of ways might it already be managed? So really, you're presenting an argument, and that was done in your background and significance. Now you have to say, okay, what am I going to ask of the literature? So what you can ask is this PICO question. And if you go to the rubric for this paper, one of the first things on here is the purpose of the review of the literature is clearly defined. So I can't emphasize that enough, because once you have the purpose of your review of the literature, you can keep coming back to it every time you find an article and say, hey, how does this article I have here answer this question that I'm asking? So you can go to this paper. Also, if you had Pollitt and Beck from your 508A Research and Theory class, on page 34 is a similar presentation of PICO question. So once you find this PICO question and you've figured out your intervention, your population comparison outcomes, those all become your keywords. And then there's a little table down here where you say like, what is your question type? And then you fill in the template with your question there. So I had talked with Sarah earlier today, and I wish I had recorded our meeting, but I think her example was in postmenopausal women. How does, what interventions? So let's see which one this would be. So she asked, how does non-pharmacological therapy compared with maybe pharmacological therapy affect urinary incontinence? So that was really her question there, and then her key words became postmenopausal women, treatment, urinary incontinence. So then she said she had already found some papers, and yeah, I'm sure everybody's already found some papers for this, but this section of the paper is really asking you to show how you found these. So even though you already might have found some journal articles, this is really the steps that I want you to report on how you found these articles. So you can just go ahead and type in apu.edu and databases. Brought me right to this page here. So one of the databases, let's say this time we're going to search Medline. Medline includes PubMed. So we'll go there, Medline, and it'll bring us up to this page and it'll ask us to put in our keyword. So we'll start, just put in the keywords here: treatment, urinary incontinence in women, and postmenopausal. Click search. So we come up with 234. That is too many. So what we can do here is really put in some filters. So we're going to say, let's look at just the last 10 years here, 2008. And then we see we get 105. So we're getting it down there. And then we can filter a little bit more. You never want to click full text on here because this is the APU database, Medline database, and it has certain subscriptions to articles, and will provide you full text for subscription for what they have a subscription for, but it doesn't mean that the APU library can't get things in full text for you. You just have to request them. So don't ever click on that. You might want to say, well, I just want things in the English language. And then we can keep adding some filters till we get to a manageable amount. So I put in here language, English language, click on that. And you can kind of see here what your limiters are. Those are also your exclusion criteria. So we have female, English language, data publication, and these are our words. So we've got 71 here. So the next step is really to look through the titles of all these and then take away the ones that you don't like, and then request the full text for the other ones. So hopefully you can get down to kind of a manageable number of maybe 30 at this point when you're putting all these limiters in, and then exclude maybe 10 of these because the abstracts don't meet it, and then maybe look at a total of 20 to look at the full text. So these are all things in here you put in all of these things here, your treatment, your keywords, and your limiters, and then you get a total of 71. So those are your keywords and your exclusion factors. So after you get these 71, you're going through and you're eliminating those. You're not excluding them anymore. You're eliminating them because they don't meet the needs. Okay? So when you get down to what you have left, you're going to report on the final number of articles you have to review for this section. So everything that you have left, those are what you're going to include in your review of the literature. You're not going to, from the total number of articles that you say you have at the end, report out on those. Don't keep eliminating or excluding after you've said, I have these 12 articles that I am going to use for the review of my literature section. So when you do, go ahead next week and write up your synthesis of the articles. It should be all 12 of those. Your time for excluding and whittling away and adding limiters is over. You have your final number, and those final ones are what you're actually going to review for your review of the literature. I hope that makes sense. So sometimes people ask, well, what do you mean by a narrative? So, I said I want you to include a narrative of your methods of your review of the literature. So that's just all of this written out. So how did I find these articles? So you're going to provide the methods for how you found these in a paragraph or two. So I think I just look at what the review, an integrative review that I did. And if you go down, here's the background significance, and here's the methods. So it says following the guidelines for integrative reviews by Whitmore and Naff. So that kind of says, I did it this specific way, and it's giving you the reference. So you can go and look there. I searched 3 electronic databases, PubMed, CINAHL, Medline. The keywords were hypoglycemia, blood glucose, hematopoietic cell transplant, or bone marrow transplant. So my inclusion criteria were empirical studies in English language that looked at hyperglycemia and the adult hematopoietic cell transplant patient. I used the years 2000 to 2013. So I initially, after that first search, I got 29 articles. I found 3 additional articles through looking at the reference sections of some of the articles that I had already found, and we're looking at the full text. And then I looked at, so 29 plus those 3, that was 32. I looked at the abstracts of these 32 articles, got rid of any duplicates, any that didn't meet inclusion criteria. Then I had 12 full text articles that I had left for the review. And then I went through these 12 articles and synthesized them. So this section here is all that you have to do really for this week. Next week is going to really be how you went through those articles and synthesize those. And we'll go into that in more detail next week. So I can't really say it enough times, but having a meeting with me using Zoom can really help you ask the questions that you need to ask for your specific review of the literature, your specific comprehensive paper. So please do set up meetings for me. I'm sure anybody who has met with me can let you know that it was helpful. It was helpful for me just because I know where you are and what's been communicated and what directions that we might need to go. So contact me if any questions, and I look forward to seeing your discussions and your submissions for this week. Okay, bye-bye.